Au revoir. All right, welcome to another episode of FitPet Boston Talks. My name is Leah and I am the host of the show. And today is going to be the conclusion of the little mini-series I have been doing about how to start playing disc with your dog and some considerations when you get going. The whole purpose is to try to put my clients that I've been working at with disc and maybe others that are considering getting into the sport, just put a little idea in your head and try to focus your game on making sure that you are going to be able to collect points when you get out there on the field. And the things that are going to enable you to collect points are your ability to throw and your dog's ability to catch, and then additionally the retrieve and the trade-off. So I'm not going to talk too much today about the retrieve and the trade-off because it's going to depend on the type of dog you have as far as a technique that you should use to encourage each behavior. And my suggestion would be to just work with 2 discs at first. So if we work with 2 discs, it is going to encourage our dog to come back to us faster, and it is going to encourage our dog to trade if they have the opportunity to win another disc. If you have any problems after that, feel free to shoot me a message. I can help you troubleshoot, or I can refer you to a trainer that can help you out if you want to do like an in-person lesson as well. Before I get started, I just wanted to mention bettervet.com. Bettervet.com is a mobile veterinary service. They come right to your door, and you can save $75 on your first visit if you use the code FPB75. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about practice and different things to consider when you're ready to practice with your dog. And practice has been something that I've really struggled with over the years as far as how to keep track of what I've been working on, motivation to practice, discipline to practice. And for me, disc is the first thing that I've consistently practiced with my dog, Ruben, both on the field and off the field. It's something that I practice consistently myself, improving my throws. And it is part of the training that I just really, really enjoy. And to kind of back up and maybe give you a little bit of info about me, I grew up playing music, and I was in orchestra, I was a band geek, didn't play sports. So this whole kind of foray into working with dogs and specifically working with the disc has been a little difficult for me because, you know, growing up, all of the skills that I was doing in my free time were very in my head. So I wasn't a kid that was out on the soccer field on the weekends or playing softball or volleyball. You know, I was practicing. And in my own practice, you know, I set the timer and I go for it. And when the timer dings, I stop. And when you have a dog, it just doesn't work that way. We have to structure our practice sessions regardless of what we're doing in order to make sure that our repetitions with our dog are good quality. So if we're playing disc with our dog, you know, our dogs, even if you have a really fit dog, is probably going to last about 90 seconds before you're going to see a deterioration in their ability to retrieve quickly. Really advanced freestyle players, I think they have freestyle routines that are like 2.5 minutes long, which is a long time. Because when your dog is playing disc, they have to be really focused the whole time and they have to be really fast. And even a high drive dog has to do a ton of running in that amount of time in order to accumulate the maximum amount of points. So one of the difficult things for me when I started practicing with Ruben was just accepting that the amount of time that I was actually playing with him wasn't going to be a lot. I might want to play more, but that's me. I'm a human. If I'm trying to work on a specific behavior with my dog, I have to be opportunistic. And that's true for any training that you do with your dog. Whether you're just doing trick training or obedience training, or you're trying to develop a structured walk, or you're trying to develop off-leash obedience, or you're doing protection work. You have to be opportunistic about your dog's performance so that your dog doesn't repeat subpar behavior. Now, of course, your dog is going to have subpar behavior at times. I actually want to push my dog a little bit to improve their fitness, to improve their stamina. But I don't want to bring them into that zone where they are unsuccessful. Because regardless of the type of dog that you have, if they practice behaviors when they're playing their retrieval game, when they're playing disc, that don't involve catching and don't involve retrieving quickly, those are behaviors that they might practice when they're out on the field. So when you practice, you want to be opportunistic. Don't worry about the time. Worry about the quality of the performance. So there are obviously different levels of practice, because there are going to be different levels of ability that your dog has. So like, let's say you're just working with your dog, or maybe they're a puppy and you're on a soft disc and they're just practicing takes or rollers inside a hallway in your house. You certainly don't want to graduate to a wide open field from that environment. Maybe you want to take it into a hallway. Maybe you want to take it into a tennis court. Maybe you want to take it into an empty parking lot before you go into a wide open field. So just take a look at what your dog is doing in performance. If you have a little bit of a nervous or anxious dog, you might have to really make them wild about that game in order for them to understand that no matter where they are, they can play this game and it's going to be just as fun as if they are in their favorite spot. So think about that stuff before you put them in an environment where they might be overstimulated. So I practice with my dog in a field, but if we are working on a freestyle type activity like flat work, like I'm trying to teach him a scoot, or I'm trying to teach him an around, or I'm trying to work on something that is, having to do with his body position, I'll do that inside with like food, or I'll use like a soft disc or a roller, right? Because I'm trying to teach a new behavior. But if we're working on up dog game or toss and fetch, we are in an open field. Now, if you have a dog that might not be tolerant of other dogs, it's admittedly more difficult. And my recommendation would be to pick a place that's not super populated and to consider putting your dog on the electric collar for off-leash obedience, so that if something does happen, you can always call your dog back to you. What I do regardless is I remove a resource if another dog shows up. So if I'm playing Frisbee with my guy, that Frisbee goes away, because I don't want there to be some sort of a tiff over the Frisbee. I'll zip up my bag, I'll pick it up and make sure that, that other dog is gone before I restart the game. If there are other people on the field that we go to, there are a few other people that have trained dogs, which is actually really cool, because when we are out in the field, we can actually share more space, because the other dogs stay away from us and we have our space and we're all merry. But if there's a bunch of pet people that are at your field running up on you, it's admittedly difficult. I remember, actually, this is a funny story. Ruben and I were playing and we were, I think I was actually having a lesson, and I had my bag open and an old golden retriever came over and stole a purple Frisbee out of my bag. And when he left, Ruben picked the Frisbee up in his mouth and then put it on the ground and peed in it. So I thought, okay, maybe he's a little more territorial than I thought. But anyway, it is difficult, especially if you live close to a city, to find private space. But the best you can do is to pay attention to your own dog, train your own dog, and advocate for your dog if you need to, if you're in public. So when I get to the field, my number one objective is to work on skills that are going to accumulate points in a game. So when I get out of the car, I just let Ruben do whatever he wants. I let him run around the field, poop and pee. I set up my cones. So I set up my cones 10 yards apart. One of my strides is roughly a yard, so I'm not super accurate about it, but I estimate. And I set the field up so that I can emulate the actual field in a game. So anything I can do in practice that's going to emulate the performance is going to benefit me. I'll also download the timers for the different games. So if you go to Disc Dog University, you can download timers for the Skyhounds, Updog, and Toss and Fetch games. And I play those while I practice, because the timer is going to add pressure to your game, because it lets you know when you have 30 seconds, when you have 10 seconds. And just think about that. If you were working on something and somebody came over and said, hey, you got 10 more minutes to do this, that probably wouldn't make you feel comfortable. It would probably make you feel anxious. So the same thing can happen out on the field if you're not prepared mentally for the pressure of that timer and you don't know how to manage your time if you're not used to hearing it, or if you're just used to kind of playing on your own without, understanding that time management is a really important part of this game. So I'll play with my dog for a game, 60 to 90 seconds, then we'll take a break. I always start my game by saying, "Are you ready?" And I end my game by saying, "Game over." And in that time where Ruben and I are playing, he might be barking at me. He might be jumping at me. He may have quote unquote rude behavior, because that's part of playing disc with your dog. Especially if you start to get into these like freestyle games, the dog needs to be comfortable jumping on you. You have to be comfortable catching the dog, right? So we're doing things in these disc dog games that aren't going to be compatible with our kind of quote unquote formal obedience training. And that is okay. It's part of the game. So after I say game over, I give my dog a break, and then I'll just kind of play retrieve with him until he gets tired, working on his catches, working on his retrieve, working on his stamina. Then I'll put him up in the car and I'll go back out onto the field, practice my throws. That time where I'm practicing my throws is extremely important because, again, you need repetitions of your throw in order to get better at it. Now, throwing with your dog present and without your dog are two totally different things. Your dog is going to apply pressure to you, regardless if you have a great relationship with your dog. The reason why the dog is applying a little bit of pressure is because you're paying attention to your dog, right? You want to make sure that you're cued into them, that they are ready to go, that they look good, that they are paying attention. And because your attention is split, your technique kind of falls behind. Your anxiety goes up because you're worried about him, her, and your dog might be barking at you, might be jumping at you. It's okay. Take a minute and just practice with your dog. And visualize what exactly you need to do. What is your part of this game? Your part is to throw. So I've even gone so far as to mentally totally forget about my dog when he's in front of me. I've practiced just forgetting that he's even there for a second. Not because I want to forget that he's there, but because I really want to throw a catchable throw for him. Okay, so practicing with your dog present is going to, in most cases, deteriorate your throw a little bit. Just be aware of it so that you can, maybe if you know that your throw is going to deteriorate a little bit, don't throw for the fences. Maybe just slow down. Take a breath. You might be wasting a second by taking that breath, but if your dog misses the catch, you would have wasted 20 seconds. So just know that there's a difference between practicing your throws on your own and practicing with your dog. But regardless, both of that all works together in order to improve your catch ratio. Now with my dog, he doesn't have a ton of stamina. So I tend to put him up for longer than you might need to. If you have a working breed dog, you can work until their performance starts to suffer and then give them a break. What I would suggest if you have a really high drive dog is bringing a ball to the field. So practice your disc separately from any other retrieval thing where you're just kind of trying to tire your dog out. Okay, disc really needs to be focused on fast retrieves, fast outs, accurate throws, and good catches. If you just want to chuck a ball around for your dog, maybe add a little obedience here and there to tire them out, I would suggest doing that separately from playing the disc with your dog, because again, it's so important for them to understand the context of the game when that disc comes out. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that this whole little series gave you something to think about if you play disc with your dog. I absolutely love the game. My dog loves the game. I have a new pup in the house. I'm really hopeful that she'll love the game. If she doesn't, that's okay. But I'm going to do everything I possibly can to encourage her to play because I think it's a really fun thing. If you have any questions, reach out, and I am going to take another opportunity to plug Andrea Rigler's Disc Dog Foundations course on teachable.com. You can go to BFF Pet Services and check out her course. It's absolutely excellent. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.